Sections 19, 20, 21, and 22 of Shri Krishna, the Lord of Love, by Baba Premanand Bharati. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. Section 19. Now comes to be considered the question of questions, how to do away with and avoid bad karma. If karma is the cause of all our sufferings in life, how to remove that cause? We have before this had births, until actions in those innumerable births have produced countless karma seeds. All these seeds are stored up in the repository of the mind. How is it possible, it may be asked, to destroy them all and prevent fresh accumulation of new karma seeds in the present birth? To those who ask this question seriously, that is, with a serious intention of acting upon any suggestion that may seem feasible to them, the answer is pregnant with all the essentials of a true solution. To such, the answer is simple, and the mode of solution simpler. To the really serious soul, hungering for freedom from the bondage of karma, even the practice of the principle of the advice may strike as still more simple, but the practice involves the full realization of the source of karma, the perfect understanding of its laws, their operations, and their relations to his own individual self. Here I will try to put the philosophy of this solution as briefly as possible. If our actions of this life are the products of actions in previous lives, the actions of those previous lives are the effects of actions in still more previous lives, and so on. Thus, trying to trace the causes of all our actions in all our past lives, we are bound to arrive at the time of the creation of the universe, when it sprang from the will of Krishna. We, as parts of the universe, sprang from that will too, Krishna's will before creation was. I am one, and I wish to be the many, and his creation is the manifestation of his will's motion towards manifoldness, and karma is the law of the rhythmic steps of that motion. The will of Krishna, therefore, is the cause of all karma, the entire creation as well as of ours, because we are but parts of that creation. This makes it clear that since Krishna is the cause all karma of the universe, he is the actor of all actions. This being so, the cause of our sufferings from bondage to karma lies in our mistaken conception that we ourselves are the doer of our actions. This cannot be, because all our actions proceed from our past karma, the roots of which are embedded in the will of Krishna. It is Krishna that is the whole universe, as well as its laws and actions. It is Krishna that suffers and enjoys in so many shapes and forms, which make up his moving will, called nature. All our troubles are born of our usurping his place, the place of the real actor. Hence karma clings by natural law to whoever claims it. We claim the doership of actions which manifest themselves through us, but the real doer is the spring of primeval action, Krishna himself. This belief that we ourselves are the doers of our actions subjects our ego to their reactions. If by tracing the source of karma to Krishna we dispel this illusion from our mind and keep it ever out of it, so that it may not disturb our conviction of the fact that Krishna is the only doer, all our past and present karma, the stored up and the working, sanchit and prarabdha, will leave us of ourselves and go to Krishna to be absorbed by him, while for that same reason the karma seeds springing from our present actions will be rendered germless, like roasted seeds which never grow. But this belief needs constant practice of this thought in order to be sustained without interruption, and involves thinking of Krishna, absolute love and life, every minute, thoughts by which the thinker absorbs the essence of the purest spirituality, whose illumination ever guides him along the paths of truth and wisdom, and prompts him to actions whose results bring harmony and happiness to himself as well as to all with whom he comes in contact. This exposition of the truth of our utter irresponsibility of our actions will appear strange and mischievous only to unthinking minds. The fear that such a belief of irresponsibility may lead some people to bad actions is entirely groundless. Such a thing can never happen, for, with such a belief firm in our mind, we have to think of God always in our daily actions, and this constant thinking induces concentration upon the deity, whose spirit is sure to prevent and counteract all our evil thoughts, not to speak of evil actions. A man who will do evil actions, taking advantage of this principle, will only deceive himself. Such evil doing can only show that he has no belief in the principle at all, but thinks of it only with a view to justify actions which lie in his heart, believes to be his own, but attributes to God to get rid of their responsibilities if possible. But if anyone believes firmly that God is the doer of all actions, and yet for want of proper culture of this belief, he is betrayed into evil actions, be sure his belief growing stronger will soon control his actions and lead him along the paths of the good and the pure. God consciousness destroys all evils of the mind to their very roots. Thus karma and its effects, which are for the ignorant, unthinking, and reckless human soul, are ever interminable, can by exercise of wisdom and mental power and discipline be absolutely done away with. Karma belongs to Krishna, and it is to Krishna that it and its fruits should be unreservedly dedicated good. The moment this mystery of karma is solved in the soul that solves it acts upon its lesson, then Krishna takes it into his arms, and the soul and its maker, now face to face, laugh together at this riddle of life, and in the laugh of ecstasy all sorrow and pain of the past are forgotten by that saved soul. Section 20. The Atom's Return Journey. It is absolute Krishna consciousness, or God consciousness, if you will, if that God is absolute love, that carries the atom from its man stage of development to its real home, Krishna, the abode of eternal love and bliss. Like all roads leading to Rome, all religious paths lead to that home. The primeval, the most natural, and the most scientific religion, called now the Hindu religion, has constructed 5 main roads for making the return journey easy, and the travelers can choose any of these roads according to their inclinations and the state of spiritual progress. One is the path of light and psychic force, called the path of the sun, because the sun is the presiding deity of the path. The second is the path of success, whose presiding deity is Ganapati, bestower of success. The third is the path of destruction of Tama, whose presiding deity is Shiva, the destroyer, one of the Hindu trinity, and the presiding deity of Tama, Shiva, who has subdued Tama and become its lord. The fourth is the path of divine energy, whose presiding deity is Durga, the motherhood of God and the universe, Prakriti, divine nature. The fifth is the path of spiritual devotion, whose presiding deity is Vishnu, Aniruddha, the presiding deity of Sattva, out of whose navel the universe has sprung, and who is the dispenser of moksha to the walkers of all the other paths. In this path is included another path, a path far superior to all the 5 paths, the path of absolute causeless love, which leads direct to Krishna, whose presiding deity is Krishna, the deity of all the deities. These different pathwalkers are called by the names of their respective deities of worship: Sara, Ganapatya, Shaiva, Shakta, worshippers of Shakti energy, and Vaishnavas, among whom are included Krishna worshippers. The sun is the medium of the physical manifestation of the divine light, the light of absolute intelligence, the coexistent attribute of absolute love. It is called the parent of the gross universe, the outer eye of the deity, the passage of the first sense of the divine mind, which produced forms. The devotee of the sun worships it as such, as the medium of the absolute deity Krishna. Some of them concentrate their eyes upon the sun, immersed in water up to the neck, from sunrise to sunset. Others pray to it morning, noon, and evening, and contemplate its power. The sun is not blazing hot, as some modern people think. It is peopled by spiritual souls, who, by the merit of soul development, go from earth after death to dwell there for further development. These spiritual souls are spiritually governed by one who is most developed among them. He is called the sun god, the representative of the sun. Sun worship leads finally to Krishna worship in some fully developed reincarnation. Ganapati, firstborn of Shiva. Shiva means wheel, destroyer of ill or evil. He is the presiding deity and bestower of success, material, moral, and spiritual, which is the chief factor of human wheel. Satisfied material success, virtuously earned, inspires the desire for moral development in well-ordered minds, and moral development in turn leads to spiritual enfoldment. By concentration on this central idea of success itself, the mind of the devotee of Ganapati absorbs its essence, the force of which guides his efforts to prosperity. Earthly prosperity enjoyed with discrimination impresses us with its hollowness, its failure to satisfy the inner craving of the mind, and points to the path of solid, all-satisfying permanent happiness. Shiva is the presiding deity of the wheel of creation, hence his name Shiva. He is the conqueror and destroyer of darkness, Tama. He helps his devotees to dispel the darkness of ignorance generated in their mind by its Tama attribute, and thus uncover its attribute of Sattva, by the illumination of which their souls reach the state of moksha, freedom from the bondage of matter, and finally merge in the divine essence whence it originally sprang. Durga is divine energy, the motherhood of creation. She is the sattvic force by which Shiva subdued Tama. Hence she is the consort of Shiva, the helpmeet of spiritual wheel. Without Durga, his Shakti energy, Shiva is inert. With his Shakti, he is alive and rules the universe. Shiva and his Shakti are inseparable as man and his mental energy, which alone he is inseparable. Man is moved by his mental energy, so Shiva is moved by his spiritual energy. Durga is the highest spiritual phase of Kali, conqueress of time and door of eternity. She is the spiritual force of nature, Prakriti. She is the mother of the universe. Her devotees, called Shaktas, Shakti worshippers, meditate on her as the great mother and pray to her for her grace, as a child talks to its mother and looks up to her for help, protection, and sustenance. When the most spiritual of her devotees develop the same natural love for and unshaken faith in her as those of an innocent child to its mother, they are blessed with her last grace. They are helped to moksha, or led into the path of Krishna, this last the greatest of all her gifts. She is yoga maya, energy of the highest spiritual concentration, holds the key of the gate of Goloka, Krishna's abode of love bliss. Vishnu is the sum total of all the deities, which are the manifestations of his powers and attributes. He is the parent of both the motherhood and fatherhood of the universe, the spring of creation itself. He is the presiding deity of Sattva, out of which are born Raja and Tama. He is the preserver, the sustaining power of the universe. He is the way to moksha. His essence is the abode of all salvation. He is the outer form of Krishna, the form through which Krishna manifests his will and becomes the many from the one. His abode, called Vaikuntha, the center of his all-pervading essence, is over this universe, over Brahma Loka, Brahma's abode. He is the last but one goal of all spiritual aspirations. He is the gate of Krishna, the last goal. The upward evolution of the atom from the man stage has to pass through many higher spiritual stages in higher and higher spheres. Interested spiritual culture, by which I mean spiritual culture with a view to enjoy the finest essence of sensual happiness, sensuous happiness in spheres higher than the earth, never lifts a human soul beyond the bhuba and the swar, the abode of the gods. The bhuba sphere is just over the earth. It is the astral sphere. It is peopled by semi-celestial spirits and beings whose bodies are made mostly of ether, air, and fire, and the finest essence of water and earth. Hence they are invisible to our gross physical eye. They are so light that the ear to them is like firm land to us. They walk over it as we walk over earth. There are houses and roads in this sphere as on earth. as also in the swar sphere. Many psychical persons have now and then a glimpse of the Bhuba sphere and the dwellers therein. One of my students in New York, the truth of whose visions is known to many, has often seen these airy houses, roads, and beings. The swar is composed of finer material than the Bhuba, and its atmosphere is more sacred. Selfish spiritual culture is rewarded by a term of residence in the swar. When the term is over, the soul has to come down to earth again to be reborn as man. The soul which loves and cultivates unselfish spirituality for spirituality's sake, succeeds when it has no desire or sympathy any more for anything earthly, in skipping over the Bhuba and swar after death, and enters and becomes a dweller in the Mahar sphere. Such a soul seldom comes back to earth, but through higher development attains to the Brahmaloka, and there waits to be absorbed or immersed in Vishnu's essence till the time of the universal natural dissolution through which it reaches its goal. The worshippers of Vishnu pray for one of the 5 states of moksha, salvation, according to the preference of their inclinations. These 5 states of salvation are Salokya, Sampiya, Sarupya, Sajujya, and Sharsti. Saloka is to dwell in the plain of Vishnu. Sampaya is to live near Vishnu as a servant. Sarupya is to live with Vishnu as his companion, having Vishnu's form and appearance. Sajujya is to remain immersed in Vishnu's essence. Sharshti is to possess even the powers of Vishnu. Those who attain to the first 3 states of salvation serve as messengers of Vishnu, and at times act as mediums of communication between Vishnu and the dwellers of the universe, while some of those who attain to the last 2 states come down to earth only from time to time as avatars, partial incarnations of Vishnu God. These have developed complete God consciousness, and after being immersed in the essence of Vishnu for eons together, they have been thoroughly Vishnuized. True, they were human beings before, but now they are parts of God himself. They have no more recollection of their former existences. Therefore, to call them any other than Vishnu is blasphemy. When the affairs of the earth are in chaos, and humanity in general needs spiritual uplifting, some of these immersed souls are detached, and they come down to our sphere, take birth, and walk among us, helping us by examples and teachings to right actions which lead to salvation. Section 21. Yoga. There are 5 processes of mental discipline by the aid of which the human soul can reach the goal quicker. These are called the 5 paths of yoga, viz. Hatha, karma, raja, gnana, and bhakti. Yoga means union. The word yoga is the original of its corrupted English form yoke. Yoga therefore means yoking the mind to the Spirit of God by concentration. Hatha yoga consists in cleaning and disciplining the outer and inner physical body by the practice of certain postures of sitting, processes of moving the muscles, and fixing the eye upon some external object or the tip of the nose. These in time induce mental poise. Karma yoga is performing good actions and practicing spiritual formulas which contribute to the purification of the mind and finally lead to the unfoldment of the soul. Raja yoga is stopping the functions of the mind's volitions. By volitions of the mind are meant thought currents. By the practice of Raja yoga, the outflow of these thought currents can be entirely stopped and turned inwards in one concentrated stream into the soul. The main process of shutting in the mind currents is by controlling the breath. The action of our breathing upon our mind is like that of the pendulum of a clock upon the movements of its hands. As for instance, the quicker the pendulum swings, the faster the movement of the hands, so the quicker our breathing, the more rapid the action of our thought currents. By controlling the breath by certain exercises prescribed by Raja Yoga, one can make his breathing slow and thereby diminish the speed of the thought currents. During these breathing exercises, the mind is concentrated upon God or the divine idea or some mystic words expressive of the deity. This lessens the activity of the mind, which then gradually experiences a calmness unfelt before, a calmness which in itself is a happiness which no form of enjoyment of material pleasure can afford. Calmness of mind develops into harmony, the result of the expression of the sattva attribute. There are 5 kinds of mental state: mura, kippa, vikipta, ekagra, and samadhi. The murha, ruled by predominant tama, is generally attracted to evil objects owing to lack of discrimination. Kipta flits from one object to another in search of pleasure. It is ruled by a predominant raja, so is ever active and never satisfied. The Bhikipta mental state, ruled by the equal combination of the three attributes, is generally like Kipta, but at times fixes its attention inward though for a short time only. When the Bhikipta is helped by the practice of concentration into the Ekagra, one-pointed state, then it is that harmony is brought about. When by constant practice the one-pointed mind becomes unwaveringly fixed on the deity, or the idea of the deity gained through the increasing illumination of the sattva, it enters into the samadhi trance state, the state of absolute absorption into the deity. The practice of the Raja Yoga has been forbidden in the Shastras in the Kali Yuga, Iron Age, because in this age, excepting in rare cases, the human body is too weak and delicate to stand the hardships, psychic exertions, and physical privations of its practices, and because an adept yogi guru, without whose constant help in every detail of it no student can attain the highest result, is very hard to be found. Many who now practice it under inexperienced gurus in India meet early death or develop incurable diseases or even turn insane. A moderate amount of simple breathing exercises may not be so injurious or fatal, but too much of it or the practice of the advanced rules ought never to be attempted, especially in the West, where a proper guru can never be found and where most people's nerves are generally shaky. Jnana Yoga is an entirely mental process of yoga, a process of discriminating between the unsubstantial and the substantial in nature and concentrating upon the only substantial essence of things and gradually getting absolutely absorbed by it. The keeping up of this process of thought in an unbroken stream requires living a life of simplicity, solitude, and renunciation. The life in which this thought current becomes unbroken is the last life, last incarnation of that soul. It escapes rebirth for good, for which it has worked for many incarnations. Its separate ego is merged in the universal ego and finally is lost in and becomes one with the one without a second. Jnana Yoga belongs to the school of the Vedanta philosophy. Vedanta is Veda and Anta, which means end, so that Vedanta means end of the Veda, the aim or goal of the Veda. And the word Veda is the original of the English word wisdom, Swedish visdom from Sanskrit. Veda, to know. Veda means knowledge of the reality, the truth. The Vedanta aphorisms of Bhagavad are but indices to the principles of the Upanishads, the wisdom part of the Veda. There are two schools of Vedanta, the old and the new. The old possesses the true interpretation of the aphorisms. The new is diluted by their false interpretations, is only about 2,000 years old, and has a comparatively small number of adherents. The old school is founded on Parinambad. The new is founded on Vivartabad. The old school holds that the universe is composed of the ever-changeful manifestations of the will energy of the one changeless deity, Parinambad. The new calls the whole universe, in fact all that is visible and perceptible, Maya, illusion, in the sense that it never existed, does not exist now, and will never exist. All that exists is Brahm, the divine essence, and we are that. All else is illusion wrought in our mind through ignorance, just as the mistaking a piece of rope lying in some dark place for a snake is due to the illusion of the darkness. This theory, with this plausible analogy, is all wrong. The universe is not all illusion, though it is the changeful force materialization of the unchangeful one substance. The force or energy or light or reflection of a substance is inseparable from it, and is pervaded by it, and partakes of its spirit. This materialized force reflection of Brahm not only possesses its substance at bottom, but must be called a part of it, as the light of a flame or reflection of a light is undeniably its part. The analogy of the snake and rope is therefore not true of God and the universe. The snake is merely the conjuration of the darkness and not born of the rope, but the universe is born of Brahm, the rope. The theory that it is born of the illusion of our ignorance is absurd in that it involves accepting that ignorance to be something of self-existent, that it has an independent existence separate from the all in all, the one without a second. If not, whence is this ignorance which has such power of illusion over our mind and senses? What is it? Whence does it come? The Neo-Vedantist answers, it is something inexplicable. His Maya is inexplicable, the argument of one in darkness himself. This new Vedantic thought has done and is doing more harm to the world than any other religious theory. It is a worse delusion than the delusion of Maya. Section 22. Bhakti Yoga. Bhakti Yoga is concentration on the deity through devotion, the best and highest form of yoga, higher than all the other forms, as Krishna himself has said in the Bhagavad Gita. Devotion is the full fruition of spiritual concentration. A true devotee is the highest yogi, for he is filled with humility and sincere. Abject humility is the expression of the sublimest spiritual nature. It is a softened shadow, as the Lord says, that is cast by my love. Sincere humility springs from the clear realization of the presence of God in everything, that the whole universe is formed of the many forms of the one form and its radiance. And with that never-fading vision before the mind's eye, the devotee forgets himself and stoops low at the feet of every one and at everything he sees, for he sees in them all his deity. Bhakti is of two kinds, Gnan Bhakti and Prem Bhakti. Gnan Bhakti is devotion aided by culture of wisdom. Its deity is some incarnation of Vishnu, and its goal is the abode of Vishnu, or the essence of Vishnu. Prem Bhakti is devotion through love, causeless, disinterested love, love for love's sake, and its deity and goal is Krishna, absolute love. The path of Prem Bhakti lies within the path of Gnan Bhakti, but this path within the path is hedged and high to shut out the view and sound of the main path. The devotee of Prem Bhakti dedicates all his knowledge, wisdom, and actions to Krishna, the spring of all wisdom and actions, and praise Krishna for his love, the luxury of loving him for his dear sake. The Prem Bhakta wants nothing from his Lord, no boon, no blessing, material or celestial, not even salvation or mukti, nothing save the blessing of being filled with love for him. He prays to his Lord, O my Krishna, it matters not what betides my body, my life, or my earthly circumstances, or in what form of life I am reborn, even if it be that of a worm, let my faith and love be fixed in thee, my beloved. Whatever is there in all existence compared with the luxury of loving thee? Thou art the sum total of the realization of all desires, of all happiness, thou the secret and object of all our longings. Such, in truth, is Krishna's attraction and more. He is the embodiment of the concentrated beauty and sweetness of all the universes. His eyes and face the focus of the love that fills all that is. Hence this Prem Bhakti path, which means the path of love's devotion, is called the path of beauty and sweetness. Beauty and sweetness are coexistent, are one and the same thing. Beauty is the expression of sweetness. Sweetness is the essence of beauty, and love is the parent of both. Krishna's form and symmetry are all ideals, unapproachable, inconceivable, unimaginable ideal. The newest rain-cloud color of his complexion is the color of the condensed ether of ether. Love, his crown and crest of peacock feathers, his raiment of molten gold, the color of attraction, his long garland and ornaments of wildflowers, his jewel kaustubha on his breast, and his bamboo flute were all proud contributions of nature to her supreme Lord. If we can imagine the essence of the purest of pure love condensed into a substance as thick as flesh and molded into form, we can then have some idea of the material of Krishna's body, whether in glory or on earth. It is a form which, the moment you produce some likeness of it in imagination, thrills you with ecstasy, for it is ecstasy condensed. Krishna is best worshipped with the heart. Prayers and incantations and offerings without sincere feeling do not reach him. He responds to the call of love alone. Call him from the innermost depth of your heart with pure love, love unmixed with motive, with sincere, artless love of a fond baby for its mother, and he will appear to you and do whatever you want him to do. Krishna is your veriest own, nearer to you than your nearest relative, your only true friend in life and eternity. He is dearer, more precious than your body or your life or your heart, for he is your soul, and soul is dearer and more precious than body, life, or heart. It is him you have been searching in all your searchings in life, in lives you have lived before, and him will you search in lives that are to come after this life. He is ever with you, he is within you, but you are searching for him outside of you. Whence you miss him, hence you run after all the will of the wisp of life, thinking these will give you the joy which your only beloved and lover alone can give. No wonder you are deceived, depressed, unsatisfied. The reward of chasing the shadow of the substance that lies within you, the reward of chasing the rainbow, which is but the reflection of the sun of your soul's sky. The devotee of Krishna meditates on Krishna, regarding him in one of the four human relationships, whichever suits his natural inclination best, viz. Dasya, or the relationship of a servant to his master, Sakya, or the relationship of the friend to his friend, Vatsalya, or the relationship of a son to his parents, or parents to a son, and Madhur, or the relationship of a wife to her husband, or of a loving woman to her lover. These four kinds of devotional feelings are natural in man. By natural I mean born from nature, of which man is the best earthly product. But wherefrom has nature derived them? From her parent source, Krishna, of course. So these feelings are present in their absolute perfection in Krishna, the source of all life. Flowing from Krishna into his creation, they constitute the cords of attachment between man and man, the natural bonds of union between soul and soul, the natural channels of communication between man and his maker. They are the invisible wires of telegraphy between the central soul and its branch souls, between the parent soul and its offsprings. If the instruments of the branch offices are rusty and out of order, they cannot transmit their messages to the main office or receive messages therefrom. The moment they are cleaned, repaired, and put into working order, they are open to perfect communication once more. The devotee of Krishna cleans the rusty and disordered instrument of his heart by cultivating one of these feelings of devotion for Krishna, and the moment this feeling attains its natural state, the moment it becomes absolutely sincere, then he absorbs and is filled with absolute love from its primeval spring. Krishna is absolutely divine and absolutely human, for it is perfect humanity that is perfect divinity. Krishna is love itself, the love that destroys all distance, love that draws the lover and the loved closest to each other. It knows no ceremony, knows no formal respect, it knows no motive. Love is its own cause, motive, and satisfaction. Divinity demands our reverence and inspires us with awe. Despite its strong attraction, we can but adore it from a distance. We cannot approach it too near, but love draws us to its bosom and holds us close. Love is a master and love is a slave. It knows no barrier, sees no faults, nay, sees virtues and faults. It responds to its own clear call, or vibrates to the voice of its own inspiration, and blesses its own creation with greater gifts of its own wealth. Whichever of the four devotional feelings towards Krishna the Bhakta devotee cultivates, it must reach the stage of unalloyed sincerity to be rewarded by its blissful realization. The loving servant of Krishna must love his service above all he loves and holds dear. The devotee who wants to be the friend and companion of Krishna must have his all-forgetting love of Krishna pervaded by an uninterrupted sense of equality with him. He may serve him as a slave, but it is the service of a friend who is more than a slave to his friend. The devotee who wants to love Krishna as a father or mother must have unwavering sincerity of such paternal love and affection. He or she must always consider himself or herself superior to Krishna, whom they must regard as a helpless child in their charge. This true parental feeling is pervaded by the unconscious spirit of spontaneous service and friendship, for no friendship and service can be compared with those of parents. The same rules apply to the cultivation of the filial feeling of devotion to Krishna. The fourth, the feeling of a loving wife to her Lord, sums up the essence of all the foregoing three feelings. It is the highest and tenderest feeling of devotion. The true wife is the servant, friend, mother, and lover of her husband. She is his slave, equal and superior by virtue of her all-surrendering love. Every form of pure love is self-surrender. The love that knows no surrender or sacrifice is a mockery. It mocks itself more than its object, for sacrifice is its chief test and best expression. Love that only loves, if loved, is pure selfishness. It is self-deception. But the love that loves for its own sake and is the fullest satisfaction in itself, the love that loves whoever or whatever its object loves, is the love absolute that Krishna is. The human soul that develops it binds Krishna thereby and holds him its prisoner for good. When that love develops the tenderness of a loving wife, it captivates the heart of hearts and entrances the soul of souls, Krishna. These Vaishnava forms of devotion reach their highest degree of development and receive their greatest impetus on the appearance of the Shri Chaitanya, the fullest incarnation of Krishna, who was born in Nudia on the Ganges, Bengal, a little over 400 years ago, and flourished for nearly half a century. He was Krishna himself incarnated in the form of his greatest devotee. Krishna is the mystery, and the Chaitanya is its explanation. Whenever Krishna comes to earth as the mystery of love in the junction period of Dwapar and Kali, he comes again in the form of Chaitanya as the explanation of that mystery 5,000 years after, to show to mankind the way to himself for examples. Chaitanya's love, devotion, and spirituality will ever remain unparalleled. He preached Krishna, the seed and soul of love absolute, and while preaching he would burst forth into song in praise of Krishna. Thus singing he would be filled with ecstasy, and in its fullness he would be moved into the most graceful dance the world has ever seen, now shouting the name of his Lord, and anon weeping for his Lord's grace, his arms and whole body waving and quivering with the heaving billows of his heart's love ocean, streams of which, like water from many fountains, would flow from his eyes in the shape of tears, and in those tears streaming straight from his eyes to the ground, all those who, catching his spirit, caught also his ecstatic motion, would be literally bathed, and all India was flooded, as the authoritative records of his apostles tell us, with Chaitanya's divine love, and millions of sinners that felt it were borne away by its tide. Sri Chaitanya preached and proved the potency of Krishna's name, that his name is the Lord himself. If anybody says Krishna, Krishna, mentally or loudly, and concentrates his mind on it, he is bound to absorb its love nectar, be drunk with its ecstasy, see Krishna in form and in everything, and finally go to Golaka after passing out of this life. Hari is the popular name of Krishna. It means he who steals our sins. Chaitanya would shout Hari Hari, or Hari Bol, say Hari, and vibrations of that name would thrill through all hairs and change them into pious devotees. Millions upon millions were thus saved by him. Millions of sinners turned into saints. The world has never seen such an avatar, the incarnation of all love, Krishna. He lived the most blameless life from childhood to his disappearance at the age of 48. Like master, like servants, his apostles were of such spiritual purity and sublimity that it would be hard to find one like them even in India of the past. Any of them was competent to save the whole world, a whole world. They have left thousands of books on Krishna and Chaitanya's life and teachings, which are of the utmost value to the students and adherents of all religions, of all climes, ages, and denominations. Love is the theme of every book, and it is difficult to resist its essence pouring into you as you read them. If my life is spared by the Lord, and if my Krishna wills it, I may present the life story and teachings of Sri Chaitanya and his apostles to the Western reader in a short time. In that book, a detailed exposition of the Vaishnava religion will be given, an exposition which may interest Christians. The present book is but the preliminary part of the Chaitanya book I intend to write, for Chaitanya cannot be understood without first understanding Krishna and his Leela on earth. Chaitanya may be called the Indian Christ, but a Christ like the like of whom has never appeared on earth. Chaitanya did not even leave his body behind. When he left this earth, he entered one morning into the temple of Jagannath and disappeared. Nobody knows how or where. End of section 22.